Greetings, friends. Jason here for AxodysFC. It's Wednesday evening. There's no real significant news as of yet. Players are presumably on the way back to London to get back to practicing for those that have been on international duty. So far, it looks like everything that people, have been dealing with should be should be minor enough that they'll be able to play Monday against Fulham. Sounds like Brendan Johnson will be available again for selection. I think Brian Hill will be as well, which I'm excited to see him get some kind of limited time. Richarlison is fine, but he's in bad form. Like he didn't have a good break with Brazil this time. Kind of looked worse than he has, but at the same time, I've heard that part of it was he didn't get much in the way of service in that 9 spot, so it wasn't really his fault that he didn't have too many shots or anything like that. Let's see, other people. Romero, sounds like he should be okay. It's a minor ankle thing. And actually he asked to come out so that he could be ready for the Premier League game coming up. Sonny, he's just banged up, and hopefully he'll slowly be getting better. But for the most part, nothing new in the way of injury announcements or anything like that. So that's promising. Although actually, Sarr did maybe have like a minor ankle thing too, potentially. Hopefully, hopefully just little things and totally playable. They can play through them, etc. So, one guy that has been discussed as a potential Højbjerg replacement is Calvin Phillips, who actually played for England and played pretty well against Italy. He's an interesting one in that this last year has kind of been a lost year for him in a way, in that he just doesn't get to play very much for City. Hasn't been good enough to start for them. He's more like he's a late replacement if he does get to play. And whereas at Leeds, he was a full-blown starter. Fortunately for him, England-wise, Gareth Southgate remains a believer in him, kind of like he was for what's his name from United. It's interesting. His only decent performances in the last year have been for England, but beyond that, he's just not getting regular starts or anything like that with Man City. So anyway, there's speculation that he'd be interested in leaving. Would have a shot to come to Spurs and play. And I always liked him at Leeds, certainly. I got fairly familiar with him after watching a couple of seasons of the documentary on them on when Bielsa was there, and they were trying to get it back to the Premier League, and eventually they did it. So anyway, that's an interesting one. I haven't heard other than the wonder kid from Belgium. Yes, and I'm forgetting the name of the team that he's on, but I've talked about him earlier. And so that guy's a possibility too. Sounds like there's a fair amount of competition for that one. So a lot of unknowns. But and actually, I Johan Lang is a fan of Phillips, so that would be, a point in his favor as well in terms of coming to us. So anyway, it seems like remains to be seen if City would be willing to part with him or not. We haven't had any players come from them. It's always been the other direction, but they do seem to sell off players fairly regularly, and so it's a possibility, certainly. Beyond that, not too much to talk about otherwise. Really, there's some striker speculation with us. Nothing concrete, I would say, at this point. And I'm not convinced that we want to do a big splash on a striker anyway. I'm thinking some kind of cheaper option, potentially. More speculative, I don't know. That's worked out well for us so far this season. So, and the one other thing that's kind of been bubbling up in the news is Sandro Tonali for Newcastle came to them from AC Milan this summer, and it looks like we've got another gambling app issue where he bet on his teams and Italy found out about it, and so he's getting sanctioned there, like criminal sanctions, but and then the Premier League stuff will be coming potentially in terms of what his football ban will actually be, but sounds like at least it's going to be another year, and I get the impression too that well, and I've heard reference to the fact that he's claiming that he's a gambling addict as well, which seems to be the leniency play, which worked for Ivan Toney. And I guess if it's legitimate, it's legitimate, but it's also, not a good situation, again. And he actually apparently was kind of the ringleader and got some of his teammates involved too. Baffling that these guys that make so much money would be trying to make extra placing bets on their team. I don't know. Anyway, we'll find out more in the coming days, I'm sure. But in the meantime, thanks for tuning in as always. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy these. And remember, to dare is to do.